name is Rosalie Peterson, and I will be presenting the 10 stages of relational development, which are initiating, experimenting, intensifying, integrating, bonding, differentiating, circumscribing, stagnating, avoiding, and terminating. Communication researcher Mark Knapp developed this highly recognized developmental model, which I have replicated here. Knapp demonstrated the rise of a relationship as two people come together, and the fall of a relationship as that same couple comes apart. Other researchers, including Kay Dindia in Maintaining Relationships Through Communication in 2003, suggest a third area to Knapp's model, and that would be relational maintenance. Relational maintenance covers the stages of integrating, bonding, differentiating, and circumscribing. As the name implies, this is where relations are maintained, or where they're successful. I'm going to begin by introducing each stage of the relational development model. And in the initiating stage of a relationship, this is where we meet someone, we exchange small talk, we talk about the weather, we let the person know that we are somebody worth talking to, that maybe we'd like to get to know them a little bit better. We talk about the weather. The next stage is experimenting. And in the experimenting stage of a relationship, we decide whether we want to pursue the relationship any further. We have the defining characteristic of small talk in experimenting. We want to find something in common in this stage. An interesting side note about the experimenting stage is, quote, "The move from initiating to experimenting seems to occur even more rapidly in cyberspace than in person," end of quote. And this is according to Ronald Adler and Russell Proctor in Looking Out, Looking in the 2011 edition. They cite a study by Pratt and others in the 1999 Communication Quarterly, which found that online relationships begin asking questions a lot more quickly than those in face-to-face contact. So this is actually perhaps helpful for people who are shy or have some kind of a handicap. Just an interesting side note for the experimenting stage. Next, we move on to the intensifying stage, and this begins to happen as we express feelings more common, and the methods of communication become less direct. And that would be like giving gifts and doing favors and spending more time together, getting to know each other's friends and introducing each other to families. These are definitely all parts of intensifying. Next is the integrating stage, and this is where people are known as a social unit. They are identified by using words such as our song, our restaurant, those kind of things. And they begin to develop shared identities. We treat them as such. When we invite them to a party, for example, we invite them as a pair, not as individuals. The bonding stage is next, and this is a turning point where the couple becomes official. If we're talking about a romantically involved couple, this is where engagement would happen and perhaps marriage. Differentiating comes next, and this is where the couple goes from a constant we to a sometimes me. And they recognize that they're still a couple, but that they also are individuals as well. The idea here is to stay committed to the relationship, but to give each other personal space. When the quality and quantity of communication starts to decrease, we have come to the circumscribing stage. The circumscribing is almost the complete opposite of integrating, and interest and commitment begin to lessen at this stage. Stagnating is everything that the word implies. Things become routine, there's no growth, no feeling, everything is just very familiar. And then this can lead to avoiding, where actual physical space is created between the two people. Time has shown that this is where unsuccessful couples, this is how they deal with their problems. According to Knapp, the final developmental stage is termination, or terminating. We know that not all relationships end. Some do, and the length of the termination can be quick, or it can drag on and on. It can end very amicably, or it can be extremely bitter. Of course, Knapp's model doesn't fit every relationship. His model appears to progress predictably and sequentially all the way to termination. One study by A. Johnson and others in the 2004 Communication Quarterly, issue 52, did concur with Knapp's pattern, but it also found other relational patterns as well. And this is how their study compares. And you can see how it actually does the coming together and the coming apart. And they show other patterns for different relationships, but I was curious to know how their pattern would apply to my own relationship, so I made my own pattern, and this is it. So this is my husband and I at our initial meeting, and here we are at 26 years of marriage. You can see we've had some ups and downs, and ideally this is how I would like the rest of our relationship to look, but I am practical enough to know that there's probably going to be a few little jags. I hope it doesn't continue right here, and I definitely don't want it to end somewhere down here. So that was just an interesting thing for me to actually see on paper. It's both interesting and terrifying to use these models and patterns to see the evolution of our own relationships. For instance, I have noticed the speed that my 17-year-old son and his girlfriend have gone from initiating to intensifying, and I cringe a little about that. And likewise, I have noticed that in my own chart, I can tell that there's work for me to do there, because that relationship is important to me. I know that I need to work a little harder at that. I think that having relationships dissected into these stages is the kind of the intriguing pull of Knapp's model. And of course, communication and relational professionals know that models and patterns like these don't explain all relationship interaction. For example, after the 26 years of marriage with my husband, I just barely discovered that my husband isn't, nor has he ever been, allergic to marigolds. So we went from differentiating to experimenting in just a matter of moments. So, wow, that doesn't really fit if we're going in this exact pattern. If I try to chart the patterns of developmental movement and deterioration between me and my 7 siblings at any time. It would look like kind of a jagged mountain with some high plateaus that would indicate times where we have come together and things have been really good. And thankfully, no one has been terminated yet. But at any time, with 7 siblings, somebody's always in one of these stages. So the coming together that happens with initiating, experimenting, intensifying, integrating, and bonding, and the coming apart that happens with differentiating, circumscribing, stagnating, avoiding, and terminating is kind of like playing a game with levels. The addition of this relational maintenance is the area or the level where relationships can win. Regardless of the model, the key to winning in any relationship is commitment, skill, and desire by both participants. Thank you.